Shalom everybody, welcome back to this channel, Deception from the Beginning. The purpose of this channel is to bring to light what has been done in the dark. And what is that? Well, it's that Satan deceived the whole world and he did it from the beginning. Okay, so in today's video, I just want to exalt the Father. I was doing a study of the forefathers, and and how they Yah was with them, and how the people round about reacted to them. And I also wanted to know what the spiritual forefathers did, or what the righteous forefathers did. And also I wanted to see Yah's mighty hand at work with those specific forefathers. Okay, so first of all, before I begin, I want to give AHAYAH, ASHER, all the praises, all the glory, all the honor, all the esteem, and all the thanks, because he is Aleph and the Tab, the Alpha and the Omega. He is from everlasting to everlasting. There is none that can be before him. There is none that can be beside him. He is all that and some. And when you get to and some, it's still more. And some. The Father is all wisdom. He's all knowledge. He's all understanding. He's all righteous. He's all truth. He's all just. He's all upright. Okay, he has an immeasurable amount of patience. He's long suffering, right? He give us grace and mercy every single day. Every day you wake up, you open your eyes, you have grace and mercy. We are living off of the Father's grace and mercy. And so I just give him all the praises, all the glory, all the honor, all the esteem, and all the thanks for who he is. Okay, he is without border, bound, or boundary. There is not even enough words in this language to that we have to magnify and exalt him. And so what you have to do, you have to exalt him in your spirit, man. You have to exalt him in your spirit, because those that worship the Father, they have to worship him in spirit and in truth. So it's your spirit that worships, that honors, that magnifies, that glorifies, that esteems, that exalts the Father. So I just give the Father all the praises, all the glory, all the honor, all the esteem, and all the thanks. Okay, so let me begin. So my focus is actually, so like I said, is that I just want to give the Father, I just want to see the Father's power, and and exalt the Father in this lesson. Okay, so let's see his mighty hand at work in the beginning, in the times of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and even the 12 sons of Jacob. So anyway, let me begin. So my focus is on Genesis. Let's go to Genesis chapter 31. Okay, and let's get into exalting our mighty, awesome, omnipotent, omnipresent Father. All right, so I said Genesis chapter 31. The focus is actually going to be on verse 5, but I'm going to start at verse 1 so that we can get an idea of what's happening. Let me see. Where is the Bible app? Okay, slow down, Roxanne. Slow down. I wish about it there. I'm gonna go to the King James, because usually I read out of the Sefer, but I can't find it. I can't find it on here. So what's this? What did I say? Genesis chapter 31. Genesis chapter 31. Genesis chapter 31. Okay, so it says, and he heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and of that which our father has he gotten all this glory. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not towards him as before. Verse 3. And the Most High Yah said unto Jacob, return unto the land of thy fathers, and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee. Verse 4. And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field unto his flock, and said unto them, I see your father's countenance, that it is not toward me as before, but the Elohim of my father has been with me. Right? So the focus is that what he said right here in verse 5. He said, the Elohim of my father has been with me. The Elohim of who? The Elohim of my father. The God of my father has been with me. So Jacob knew the Elohim of his father, right? He didn't just know of him like how people know of a God today. No, he knew more than just that. He knew the power. So if we continue, let's go down to verse 7. It says, and your father, this is what he's saying to Leah and Rachel. He says, and your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times. But listen to this. But Elohim suffered him not to hurt me. So do you see that? It says, do you hear that? It says, but, let me read it. But Elohim suffered him not to hurt me. So when you look at that, Jacob knew who his protector was, right? He knew who his protector was, and he knew his protector was the Elohim of his father. Okay, so Jacob knew the God of his father, and guess what? And he knew that the same God of his father was his protector. Let's go to verse 8. So verse 8 says, now if Laban said, thus the speckle shall be your wages. Remember, we exalting the father. We're going to exalt him, and we're going to talk about his power, his magnificent power. Verse 8. If Laban said, thus the speckle shall be your wages, then all the cattle bore a speckle. And if he said, thus the ring strake shall be your wages, then bore all the cattle ring strake. Verse 9. Thus Elohim has taken away the cattle of your father and given them to me. You see that? The Elohim of Jacob's father has provided for Jacob. By doing what? By taking away Laban's cattle and giving them to Jacob. And guess what? He could do that. The father could do that because everything belongs to him. Okay? So he could take away whatever he wants from whoever he wants and give it to whoever he wants. Thank you very much. So how did Yah do this? All right? How did Yah take away the cattle from Laban and give them to Jacob? I'm going to summarize it. If we read in verse 10 is, I'll just summarize it. I might read it later. Whatever color, pattern, type cattle Laban told Jacob would be his wages, guess what? The God of the God of Jacob's father caused the offspring to be born that way, okay, and caused those color pattern rams to mate with the cattle. Yep. So Jacob knew what? What did Jacob know? Jacob knew his father was his protector and his provider. He knew the Most High Yah was his protector and his provider. Yes, he did. And what else did he know? If we're going to read verse 11 now, listen to this. Let's read verse 11. And the angel of the Most High Yah spoke unto me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, here am I. I love when Yah calls his servants and they say, here am I. I just love that. Verse 12, and he said, lift up your eyes and see all the rams which leap upon the cattle are ring-straked, speckled, and grizzled. Now listen to this, guys. For I have seen from beginning to end all that Laban does unto you. And what else does Jacob know about? What else does Jacob know about Elohim? Okay, what else does he know about the Elohim of his father? Listen to this. He knows that the Elohim of his father sees it all. Yes, he does. And there is nothing hid from him. There is nothing hid from this mighty one. So if somebody do you wrong, you don't got to worry about taking revenge. You serve the Most High Yah. You serve AHAYAH, ASHER, AHAYAH. And somebody does you wrong, you don't got to worry about taking revenge on them, okay? Because you serve a living mighty one that sees it all, that hears it all, that knows it all, that understands it all. Okay, so all you got to do is just keep walking in the Father's will, keep doing and being obedient to the Father, keep serving and worshiping the Father, and don't worry about taking revenge on anybody, because the Father will take care of that for you. Okay? Yes, so where was I? But yeah, the other thing is that if we see this, Laban also had, listen to this, Laban also had respect unto Elohim, because listen what happened. I think it's in verse 29. Let's go to verse 29. This is what Laban said when he met up with And I advise everybody to go ahead and read Genesis chapter 31, so you can, and even chapter 30, so you can get a feel of this whole situation, right? So verse 29, it is in the power of my hand to do you hurt. This is what Laban says. But the Elohim of your father spoke to me yesternight, saying, take heed that you speak not to Jacob either good or bad. So you see that Laban recognized that he better be careful how he deals with Jacob, okay? Because what happened is that he was pursuing after Jacob with the intention to hurt him, all right? But guess what? What happened is that he couldn't do anything, and he couldn't say anything good or bad to Jacob, because AHAYAH intervened and paid him a visit in a dream and gave him a warning and told him that, listen here, you better don't speak good or bad to Jacob, okay? Because, and then Laban knew that, you know, I better not do that, because this mighty one, this Elohim, ain't nobody for me to play with. So let's go down to verse 42. And Jacob said, so listen to this, verse 42, except the Elohim of my father, the Elohim of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had been with me, surely you had sent me away empty. Elohim has what? Seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked you yesternight, right? So the forefathers gave the glory. I like that, because the forefathers gave the glory to AHAYAH, right? They knew he was all power. They knew they were not ashamed of his power. They did not deny his power, right? They did not try to steal his power, right? If we look at another example, let's go to Genesis chapter 40 verse 8. And they said unto him, Genesis chapter 40 verse 8, and they said unto him, we have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter. This is with Joseph, okay? This is with Joseph now. Genesis chapter 40 verse 8. Okay, because we're talking about how the forefathers, how they magnified Yah, how they gave him the glory and the honor and the respect and the thanks, and they esteemed him, and they and the people around about them, like they knew who this mighty one was. And yeah, anyway, let's go to Genesis chapter 40 verse 8. It says, and they said unto him, we have dreamed a dream. This is with Joseph, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said unto them, do not interpretations belong to Elohim? So what I see here is that Joseph is giving the father AHAYAH. He's given him he's given the creator the glory. He's given him the honor. He's given him the respect, right? I see him giving AHAYAH, the creator, the glory, right? He points the people around him, he points them to the one who holds all power. So if we look again in Genesis chapter 41 verses 15 and 16, because remember, the focus is that the forefathers, they gave the glory to the Father. They gave the glory to AHAYAH, okay? And the Pharaoh said unto Eliasaph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I heard say of you that you can understand a dream and interpret it. So when we listen to Joseph's response, listen, verse 16. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, listen to this, it is not in me. It is not in me. Hold up. It is not in me. It is not in me. Elohim shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. You see that? So Joseph is letting Pharaoh know that it's not him. It is not him. It is not in his power. It is the power of AHAYAH. Joseph is proclaiming his mighty one to Pharaoh. You see that? That is beautiful. I love that. I love that, because Joseph has a gift. Yah has given him a gift, and he's letting Pharaoh know, yo, it's not in me. AHAYAH, the most mighty one, the living Elohim, is going to give you an answer of peace. And guess what? This peace, this peace is truth. This peace is truth, because Elohim is going to tell him the truth about his dream, and this truth that Yah is going to reveal is going to make Pharaoh free, because the truth makes us free. Okay, so let me go to the next But what I didn't see though, I like the fact that that I didn't see Joseph preaching and forcing his mighty one on anyone, even though Yah was with him all the time through good times and through his adversities. Guess what? Throughout all of that, Joseph gave Yah the honor. Okay, now if we look at verse 32, listen to verse 32, same chapter, verse 32. I think it was chapter 40, verse 32. And for that, listen to this is what Joseph says, because the dream was doubled. It says, and for that, verse 32, and for that the dream was doubled, and Pharaoh, the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by Elohim, and Elohim will shortly bring it to pass. Who? Elohim will shortly bring it to pass. So in here, Joseph is again letting Pharaoh know who rules, okay? Who is really in control. He's letting Pharaoh know who rules and who is really in control. And after that, Joseph gave some, after this, Joseph had given Pharaoh some wise counsel about storing food. So, and then we're going to go to verse 38. Listen to verse 38 after Joseph gives wise counsel. This is what Pharaoh says. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, can we find such a one as this is a man whom the Ruach Elohim is? Wait. Pharaoh knew that Yah was Ruach. You see that? He says, and Pharaoh said unto his servant, can we find such a one as this is a man whom the Ruach Elohim is? So you see that? Pharaoh knew that Yah was Ruach. Okay? He knew that Yah was spirit. And let's go to verse 39. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, as for much as, listen to this, as for, and the Pharaoh said unto Joseph, for as much as Elohim has showed you all this, there is none so discreet and wise as you are. So guess what? Pharaoh recognized who held the power. He recognized Elohim had all power, and he is the one that gave that wisdom and discretion to Joseph. So of course he's going to be like, you know what? I want you to be in charge of this, right? I want you to take care of this, because the one who holds all power is with you, maybe in you. So yeah, hallelujah. But on another note, I wanted to look how Joseph's brothers had done him. So what happened is that his brothers, what his brothers meant for harm, the father turned it around for good, because the majority of them, the majority of his brothers, they really wanted to kill him. But Yah already had planned, okay, and orchestrated his steps. And guess what? Yah used their evil hearts to execute his plan, all right, and to order Joseph's steps. And because of that, a nation of people was spared of the famine. But praise Yah. But you know what? All that did not clear them from their from being guilty of wanting to kill Joseph. Yeah, but that's a little side note. So what we talking about? We are talking about how the spiritual ones, the spiritual forefathers, knew Yah, and they exalted him, and other nations round about knew that Yah was a mighty one to fear. They knew that Abraham's descendants prospered because Yah was with them. So where did the ancestors, where did the forefathers go wrong? When did the power stop being brought to the forefront? When? So we know with Abraham, people knew he walked with Yah. We know that people knew that the mighty one that Abraham served was the true and living Elohim. If we go back to Genesis chapter 12, verse 17, let's listen to this. And Yahuwah plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's woman. Verse 18. This is Genesis chapter 12, by the way. Genesis chapter 12, I just read 17, and now I'm on verse 18. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, what is this that you have done unto me? Why did you not tell me that she was your woman? Verse 19. Why said you, she is my sister? So I might have taken her to be my woman? Take her and go your way. So basically, Pharaoh was plagued by Yahuwah, right, by the Most High Yah, not only him, but his house, as well as these plagues were very great, guys. These were not just some simple plagues. These were, because it says the plagues were very great. So Pharaoh saw the power of Abraham's mighty one, right? Okay, And he was like, I don't want nothing to do with this. All right, you and yours, get out of here. Because he didn't want nothing to do with Yah's power and Yah's doing nothing to him. Because yeah, he was like, get out of here. Don't stay here. I don't want no harm coming to me, because you got the mighty one that don't play. So Pharaoh feared Abram's mighty one. Now, if we look again in Genesis chapter 20, okay, let's go to Genesis chapter 20, verse 2. And Abram said unto Sarai, his woman, she is my sister. And Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. And what happened? Let's go to verse 3. That was verse 2, verse 3. But Elohim came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, behold, you are but a dead man. For the woman which you have taken, for she is a man's woman. Verse 4, but Abimelech had not come near her. And he said, Adonai, will you slay also a righteous nation? Verse 5, said he not unto me, she is my sister? And she even herself said, he is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and the innocence of my hands have I done this. We're still in the dream, verse 6. And Elohim said unto him in a dream, yea, I know that you did this in the integrity of your heart, for I also withheld you from sinning against me. Therefore suffered I you not to touch her. Verse 7, now therefore restore the man his woman, for he is a prophet, and he shall pray for you, and you shall live. And if you restore her not, know that you shall surely die, and all that are yours. Okay? Verse 8, therefore Abimelech rose up early in the morning and called his servants and told all things in their ears. And the men were sore afraid. So, what I see here, as you can see, is that they feared the Elohim of Abraham, right? The fear of Abraham's mighty one came upon them. All right, verse 9. Then Abimelech called Abram and said unto him, what have you done unto us? And what have I offended you, that you have brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? You have done deeds that ought not to be done. You have done deeds unto me that ought not to be done. But there's a lot of stuff that we could say in this situation right here, especially with the fact that you know, Abraham telling people that that she's his sister. I mean, it's like, what happened with him? Did not he trust his mighty one to protect him anyways? I mean, even though he did that, the father did show up and show out for him, you know. But the fact is that, like, how, especially when he was in Egypt, like, how is the father gonna make you a great nation if you be dead? When he was in Egypt, he didn't have Isaac as yet. I don't think he had Ishmael either. But how is the father gonna make you a great nation if you be dead? Didn't he promise that he was gonna make you a great nation? But yeah, so but the focus today is how is that these kings round about is how the forefathers, how they exalted the father. They knew who was their provider, they knew who was their protector. And also what I see that is that these kings round about them feared the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the forefathers knew and I said that already. Forefathers knew who knew who their protector was, and the people around about knew who their protector was as well. Okay, so it's kind of hard for me to understand why Abraham and Isaac would tell people that their wife was their sister when they served the only true and living Elohim. All right, and they knew and they saw his power, and he was their protector. Even though they did that, the father still showed up and showed out on their behalf. And I guess that also helped to strengthen their faith and show us today his power at work. So where did our ancestors go wrong? When did they stop proclaiming his power to their generations? All right, look at Isaac, right? Even in Isaac's time, the people feared his Elohim. If we go to Genesis 26, right, when the people of Gerar asked him about Rebekah, right? Rebekah. This is Isaac. Yeah, when the people in Gerar asked him about Rebekah, he told them that she was his sister. And they were there in Gerar for a long time, right? They were there for a long time. If we read let's read verse 8. Genesis chapter 6, verse 8. And it came to pass, when he had been there a long time, that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out a window and saw, and behold, Isaac was sporting with Rebekah, his woman. Verse 9. And Abimelech called Isaac and said, Behold, of a surety she is your woman. And how said you, She is my sister? And Isaac said unto him, Because I said, Lest I die for her. Verse 10. And Abimelech said, What is it you have done unto us? One of the people might have lightly lain with your woman, and you should have brought guiltiness upon us. 11. And Abimelech charged all his people, saying, He that touches this man's woman shall surely be put to death. So these people, guys, these people knew that Yah, AHAYAH, ASHER, AHAYAH, was the protector of this man Isaac, Abraham's son. He knew that Yah was Isaac. He knew that Yah was with Isaac, and they better not touch him or wrong him or his woman. Okay. Now, if we go down to 13, let's go down to 13. Okay, let's go down to 13. The man, that's Isaac, waxed great and went forward and grew until he became, because he didn't leave that land, okay? He was still in that land. It's just that nobody was supposed to touch his woman, okay? Right. Let me read it again. The man, that's Isaac, waxed great and went forward and grew until he became very great. Verse 14. For he had possessions of flocks and possessions of herds and great store of servants. And the Philistine envied him. You see that? The Philistine envied him. Why? Why they envied him? Because Yah had allowed him to become more mighty than them in their own land. You see that? He was stronger and more mighty. So Abimelech told him, this is what Abimelech told him. Go to verse 16. Listen. And Abimelech said unto Isaac, Go from us, for you are much mightier than we. So the Philistine knew exactly who was with Isaac, okay? And who caused him to wax so great and mighty. They knew it was the mighty one that Isaac and his father served. And they feared that mighty one, okay? How can we tell they feared the God of Abraham and Isaac? Let's go see. If we go down to verse 26, this is after Abimelech. No, Abimelech had told him to leave now. He said, Go from us. So go down to 26 now. This is after Abimelech had sent him away. Verse 26. Then Abimelech went to him, okay, from Gerar. That's he went to Isaac from Gerar. And Ashuzath, one of his friends, and Pichol, the chief captain of his army. So Abimelech took 2 of his big dogs with him. Verse 27, to go see Isaac. Okay, verse 27. And Isaac said unto him, Wherefore come you ye to me, seeing you hate me, and have sent me away from you? Verse 28. Listen to what the response was. Listen to what Abimelech said. We certainly saw that Yahuwah was with you, and we said, Let there be no oath, let there be an oath betwixt us, even betwixt us and you, and let us cut a covenant with you. Verse 29. That you will do us no harm, as we have not touched you, and as we have done unto you nothing but good, and have sent you away in peace. You are now blessed. You are now the blessed of Yahuwah. You see that what he said? You are now the blessed of Yahuwah. So these people envied him and hated him, okay? Yet they come in to make peace with him. Why? Because they knew who was with him. They knew the one who prospered him was AHAYAH, ASHER, AHAYAH. And guess what? But what happened with them? Why couldn't they? Yeah, this was my question. What happened with those people? Why couldn't they serve Jacob and Isaac's mighty one? Why couldn't they serve Abraham, Jacob's, and Isaac's mighty one as well? I don't know. Why couldn't they give their worship to the God of Isaac, right? Seeing that he was a mighty one that was and is above all. It must be because no one can come to the Father unless he draws them to him. That's what that's probably what it is. Why couldn't they go to that mighty one? But instead, the people who had the real, and what happened? Instead, the people who had the real Elohim, the one true and living Elohim, who holds all power, who created all things, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, They dropped the only true Elohim, the only true and living Elohim, and went off to serve other gods, even gods of woods and stone, guys. Yep. To serve anything to do with flesh. Yep. And you know what the most heartbreaking thing is to me? This is when you lead later on in the scripture, as it when Samuel became with Samuel the prophet, when Samuel took over from, I think he took over from Eli, and he was at his maybe like in the middle of his being the prophet. But the most heartbreaking thing is when the children of Israel told Samuel to tell Yah that they wanted a king like the other nations. Yah knew their hearts, and they did not want AHAYAH to rule over them. They wanted flesh to rule over them. Samuel was really mad, but Yah told him, it's not you that they reject. They have rejected me. Yep. Yeah, but to me that was the most heartbreaking, one of the most heartbreaking things that I read in the scriptures, to know that they rejected the Father. Yeah. Yep. They rejected Yah for flesh. That's kind of like the whole situation with Adam and Eve in the garden. They chose to go in the way of flesh. All right, so what I was saying is that these people envied and hated, back to the what I was talking about. So these people envied and hated Isaac. Is it Isaac? They envied and or Jacob. They envied and hated Isaac. Isaac. Yeah, they envied and hated him, but they still knew that the God he served was his provider and his protector, and that this mighty one was very powerful, and they feared him to the point where even though they hated and envied him, they still wanted to cut a covenant of peace with him, because they knew his mighty one was the protector, right? Was his protector, and they didn't want harm to come to them. They didn't want the wrath of Isaac's mighty one to be on them. They knew this was a serious mighty one. Yep. So we have seen how Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob knew their mighty one, and the people or the other nations round about them knew that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's mighty one was not to be played with. They knew he protected and prospered them. Okay, so let's see about these 12 sons that Jacob had. So an incident happened in Genesis 34 where Dinah, Jacob's daughter, went out to the city where they were dwelling. This is when they left Laban and they went to a city. They were dwelling in Shechem, right? Yeah. So what happened is that the prince of that country saw her and took her and laid with her and defiled her, right? Well, as you can imagine, Big Brothers was not having that. Nope. Her Big Brothers was not about that mess. So, it was getting dark. And they were very upset, right? So it's like some nasty man come and like rape your little sister. What would you do, right? Anyways, the guy, the prince who did this thing, wanted her and his woman, wanted her to be as his woman. He wanted her to be his wife or his woman. So the Big Brothers, her Big Brothers, this was a very big deal. And her brothers did not take it lightly. So let's read Genesis 34 verse 7, right? And the sons of Yaakov came out, verse 7. Genesis 34 verse 7. And the sons of Yaakov came out of the field when they heard it. And the men were grieved, and they were very wroth, because he had wrought folly in Yasharel, in line with Yaakov's daughter, which thing ought not to be done. So yes, this was a huge deal. Verse 8, and Hamor communed with them, saying, the soul, it says the soul, but I would say in this sense it must be flesh. The flesh of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. I pray you give her me to be his woman. Verse 9, and make he marriage with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you. Verse 10, and ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get you possessions therein. Verse 11, And Shechem said unto her father and unto her brothers, Let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me I will give. Verse 12. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give, according as ye shall say unto me. But I say unto me, but give me the damsel to be my woman. Verse 13. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father deceitfully, and said, because he had defiled from beginning to end Dinah their sister. Verse 14. And they said unto them, we cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us. Okay, so I'm going to summarize the rest. So they told Hamor and Shechem that if all the males in their country, including them, right, Hamor and Shechem, get circumcised, then they will agree to this. Then they will agree to make marriages with they will agree to make marriages with them, and they will agree to give Dinah, the woman, to be his wife. So Hamor and Shechem told the men of their city, they told all the men in their city, and all the men in their city, they went ahead and they did it, and they got circumcised. So what happened is that on the third day, right, on the third day, when everybody was all sore, and from the circumcision, all the men were weak and sore, two of Jacob's sons came upon the city, and they killed Hamor and took Dinah out of the house, out of his house, out of Shechem's house. They killed Shechem. They killed the dad and his the son and his dad, and then they took their sister out of his house, and then they killed all the men in that city. Verse 27. Let me read it. Verse 27. Say the sons of Jacob came upon the slain and spoiled the city, because they had defiled their sister. Verse 28. This is what they took. All right. They took their sheep, oxen, asses from the city and the field, and I think it must have been all the sons at this point. I think it must have been all the sons of Jacob that got involved in it. Okay, but it was and Levi. So who did the thing again? I think it was Simeon and Levi who came in and killed everybody. Verse 29. And all their, yeah, it was Simeon and Levi. Verse 29. And all their wealth and all their little ones and their women took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. So listen to what Jacob said to Simeon and Levi. Yeah. Verse 30. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, ye have troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanim and the Perizim, and I being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. Verse 31. And they said, should he deal with our sister as with an harlot? But there is a lot to say here. Okay, so there's a lot that could be said, but for the purposes of this video, I just want to keep the focus. The focus is that the forefathers knew that Elohim, and they knew their Elohim, and they knew that he was the mighty one. He knew that they knew he was the one and true living Elohim. He was their mighty one. He was their protector, that he was above all. They knew he was their protector and provider, and so did the nations round about them. Okay, so if we listen to Genesis 35, after Jacob's sons, this is what the focus is. Okay, listen to the almighty power. Listen to this. Oh, Father is so powerful. All power. Genesis 35, because that's the focus. After Jacob's sons had attacked and killed all the men of Shechem, right? Verse 35, Genesis chapter 35, verse 5. And they journeyed, and the terror, you see that? This is after they had attacked Shechem. Genesis chapter 35, verse 5. And they journeyed, and the terror of Elohim was upon the cities that were round about them, and they did not pursue after the sons of Jacob. You see that? Because the fear of Yah. Even though Jacob's sons did these things, I'm just saying, like, the fear of the Most High Yah was on all the cities round about them. right? They couldn't pursue. They could have all band together and pursue after Jacob's sons and Jacob's house, but they couldn't because the fear of the Most High Yah, AHAYAH, ASHER, AHAYAH, was upon them. Hallelujah. So Jacob thought that the people of the city would gang up and fight against them and his few but what happened? Yah put fear in their hearts. Yah put fear in their hearts, so to preserve Jacob and his household. Yeah. So they knew the mighty one, that's the people round about them, they knew the mighty one of Jacob was not to be messed with. They knew he was the most powerful. Okay, so I talked about Joseph already, and I talked about Joseph with Pharaoh already. Yeah, I did, but I wanted to talk a little bit more. It's just that it's so dark. Let me see if I can turn on this light. So, oh no, what happened? I think it's gonna turn off. So yeah, so listen, so I talked about Joseph already. When he went down into Egypt, and how the Pharaoh and the people knew who was with Joseph. They knew his mighty one was the highest and most powerful. That's why Pharaoh said what he said and put Joseph second in command. If we look at Genesis 40 verses 40, this is what Pharaoh said to Joseph: you shall be over my house, and according to your word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than you. Verse 41. And Pharaoh said unto Eliasaph, see, I have set you over all the land of Mitzrayim. I mean, that's Egypt. 42. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. 43. And made him to ride in the second chariot which he had, and they cried before him, bow the knee, and he made him ruler over all the land of Mitzrayim. Listen to 44. And Pharaoh said unto Eliasaph, I am Pharaoh, and without you shall no man lift up his hand on his foot in all the land of Mitzrayim. So why is Pharaoh doing all of this? It's not because of Joseph, guys. It's not because of Joseph. It is who is guiding and leading Joseph. It is because of the Ruach that leads Joseph's Ruach. Okay? The Ruach of the Most High Creator of heaven and earth leads Joseph's Ruach. These pagans recognized the power, and Joseph gave glory to his mighty one, AHAYAH, ASHER, AHAYAH. Guess what? Guess what it is all about? Joseph's mighty one. That's what it's all about. The God who is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Joseph's mighty one is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Joseph made Pharaoh. And Joseph made Pharaoh know that. Okay? Pay attention. Look at the dream Pharaoh had. What Joseph told Pharaoh in 41. Verse 25. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh from beginning to end is one. Listen to this, what he told him. The dream of Pharaoh from beginning to end is one. Elohim, who is Elohim, AHAYAH, ASHER, AHAYAH, has showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. Okay? Now go down to 28. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What Elohim, AHAYAH, ASHER, AHAYAH, is about to do. He shows it unto Pharaoh. See, Joseph is giving the father the credit. He is giving the father the praises, the glory, the honor. So, okay, so that is who, see that. Oh yeah, yeah. So who gets the glory? AHAYAH, ASHER, AHAYAH, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the everlasting, omnipotent one, who is the orchestrator of all things, who is the creator of heaven and earth, and all that are within and without. Right? So guess what? All praises, all glory, all honor, all esteem to AHAYAH, ASHER, AHAYAH, forever. Shalom.